Yeah, countdown from 10.
Deputy Mayor. Welcome everyone to the regular council session of the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc on Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023. The municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc acknowledge that it is located on Treaty 21 territory. We are thankful to the generations of people who have taken care of this land, including the Chippewas of the Thames First Nation, the Munsee Delaware First Nation, and the United Nation of the Thames. Deputy Clerk, may I have the roll call, please?
All members are present this evening.
Thank you. A recommendation or someone to bring a motion that the October 3rd, 2023 regular council meeting agenda be approved as circulated. Someone, Councillor Kennis, seconded by Deputy Mayor McGuire. All in favor? Carried. Are there any declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move on to our delegations. Tonight, we are very fortunate to be joined by members of the 1st Strathroy Scouts and 1st Mount Bridges Scouts. I believe Ken Dunsmore and other representatives of the groups will be attending. They'll make a brief presentation and promote Apple Day, which takes place on October 14th, 2023. And I should mention that one of my earliest childhood memories is participating in Apple Day. So Mr. Dunsmore or someone, if you wish to make your presentation.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and council and staff. Thank you again for having us over. I bring greetings from our 1st Strathroy group, and I also bring greetings from Melissa Mullet, who's group commissioner in Mount Bridges. She's away on business travel and couldn't make it out tonight. So I'd like to introduce some of our youngsters here, if I could, just for a moment. When I call your name out, if you'd like to just please stand up and stay standing, okay? We have Grant Odell. We have Michael Timmers. We have Cubs Evelyn and Annabelle Timmers. And we have Scouter Bethany, their mom, and their dad, Andy. We have Scouts Oliver and Jillian. Okay, and who have I missed? Anybody?
Miss Lacey, she's a beaver as well.
Lacey's a beaver. Stand up, Lacey. Not a girl. Okay, super. And we have moms and dads here as well. So just wave everybody. Scouting is like a family thing, if you're not aware. Apple Day was officially recognized in Canada in 1932. And the first group to hold one was in St. John, New Brunswick, followed closely by St. Catharines, Ontario. I don't know how long we've been doing it in town, but I think it goes way back as well. Both of our scout groups are doing extremely well, and we're actually bulging at the seams. The kids are coming out. I know there's been a lot of new families move into the communities in the last few years. But we're very pleased to be able to have this resurgence. We grew last year and we grew again this year. Our parents are helping out by coming in and helping out, because when you have kids, you need adults to run the program. So they're coming as well. Especially happy to include in our membership this year 3 youth from a recently settled Ukrainian family. So that was a really nice treat. Like our older scouting youth like to say, scouts do stuff. So I just want to give you a little hint as to what we've been up to and what we are going to be up to. In the past 2 years, a group of 10 ventures attended a week-long jamboree in Denmark. And then they followed that up with a 2-week tour of 8 European countries. And then a 2-day visit to Iceland on the way back home. And you may have heard about the Icelandic volcano that happened not that long ago. The kids arrived on their plane, they were told there was a volcano, and not content to just watch it on TV, they decided they wanted to go and see it. So they walked for hours and hours in the total dark on Old Volcano to view it personally right up close. So that was quite a memory. During the French leg of their European tour, they visited Vimy, and I'm pleased to announce that the Strathroy-Caradoc maple tree that was planted at Vimy by our scouts back at the 100th anniversary, it's right next to the visitation center if you've been there, is doing very well. It's healthy and growing. So this past summer, scouts from both Strathroy and Mount Bridges got together and attended a jamboree in Holland. That was a 10-day jamboree and a nice tour of Amsterdam following the jamboree before heading home. Also this past summer, 2 senior scouts of ours attended the South Korean World Jamboree, where they experienced a hurricane. You may have caught it on the news. Partly through the jamboree, they had to call in 1,000 buses and bus them all into Seoul and other areas of South Korea, where they finished their jamboree. They didn't just send them home. And then they followed that trip up, South Korean trip up with a trip up to Nunavut, where they spent 4 or 5 days up there, longer than what they had planned because the weather socked in, and they experienced what it's like to live in a fly-in community when the planes can't fly. Because supplies were short, and that was quite an experience for them. Coming up, our Ventures and Rover Scouts will also attend the National Remembrance Day service in Ottawa this year for November the 11th, where they will lay a special wreath. They will tour Parliament Hill and the National War Museum. Strathroy-Caradoc is well represented by your scout groups as they attend local, national, and international scouting events. Thank you. I'll, now kids, if you want to go and right up through here and look for anyone that looks like they're hungry.
Thank you very much. Thank you, mister. I got some. Yes, please. Thank you. How are you doing? Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I already got it. Already got it.
Thank
You already got it.
Okay, if anyone didn't get an apple, put your hand up. Okay. Thank you again, everyone. We'll go quietly as we can.
No, on behalf of council, I would like to thank you for coming here this evening. If memory serves me correct, I think it's in either Cubs or Scouts, there's a citizenship badge.
There is a citizenship badge.
There is, so for those coming tonight, hopefully this will go some way to, and if they want to stay and watch council, they'll get the whole badge. So thank you again for coming.
Thanks for the invitation to stay and watch. You may get a little everybody needs that at one point. But these kids are all going to a meeting now. They're meeting nights tonight. So they'll be running right back to the hall and participating in a lot of activities through the through our green belt. So thank you again.
Thank you very much.
That's pretty good.
Good job, Evelyn. Okay.
Okay, we'll now proceed to call the matters at hand. 4.2 petition for new drainage. We have a petition for new drainage to service affected roads and lands around Falcon Bridge Drive. We start by having a motion that council accept the petition for concession 3 North, part lot 11, Falcon Bridge Farm for information. Someone to make a motion to receive the report. Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councilor Brennan. All in favor? Opposed, if any. The second motion is that council authorize Street Associates to prepare an engineer's report on this matter. Someone to bring the motion? Councillor Caddis, second by Deputy Mayor McGuire. I'm not sure, Director Strauss, if there are any reports on that, or we just take questions on it.
Sorry, I wasn't sure if you were asking a question. If there is questions, I'm happy to
Yes.
chat to it, or I can give you a highlight of why this petition is there. So just a quick overview, that there's 3 landowners and the road authority petitioned. This is just requesting a direct legal outlet connection to the existing drain. The project will create better surface and subsurface drainage conditions. For the petitioning farm landowners, it'll increase crop yield and assist with seasonal flooding conditions that are occurring on the lands just on the south of Falconbridge.
Okay. Are there any questions for Director Strauss? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. Next drainage matter, 4.3, petition for new drainage, lots 8 and 9, Rural Route 1 SLR, Rick McCracken. Have someone to bring a motion that council receive the report. Councillor Hippel, second by Councillor Brennan. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Now, council authorized Street Associates to prepare an engineer's report on this matter. Someone to bring the motion. Councillor Caddis, second by Deputy Mayor McGuire. Director Strauss, a brief report on the report.
Thank you, through the chair. So there's 2 landowners who petitioned. This is for the lands just adjacent north of the Christina Road and Switzer Drive intersection. There's just low-lying lands that also have seasonal crop loss, and they're lacking a legal outlet. So this is to establish that legal outlet.
Are there any questions of Director Strauss? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you, Director Strauss. Now move to public meeting number 1. The purpose of this public meeting is to consider an application for the rezoning for the property located at 40 Caradoc Street North, Strathroy, Andrew Bizaire and Hemrick Professional Corporation. I have a motion to open the public meeting. The public meeting to consider an application for the rezoning for the property located at 40 Caradoc Street North, Strathroy, be hereby open. Someone to bring the motion. Second by Councillor Caddis. All in favor? Carried. Tim, I believe you are on and you will give a report on the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'm sharing the screen of the PowerPoint presentation as well. But this is an application for rezoning of the property at 40 Caradoc Street North, which is just to the west side of Caradoc Street between Center Road and James Street, which is essentially just north of Metcalfe. This is a mix of commercial and residential uses in the area. Tonight's public meeting is also looking for a recommendation for or a decision on the matter as well. The proposal is simply to take an existing home that was used as a dwelling and then converted to commercial use. This commercial use was a travel agency for a number of years. Sort of near COVID, that ended. Over the last short while, it has not been used as a commercial operation, and the applicant and owner are looking to have the zoning of the property changed to R1, which would allow for residential uses only. This is done for 2 reasons. One, and the main reason, is that it would allow them greater ability to, or easier way to get a mortgage, a commercially zoned property versus residentially zoned properties have different mortgage considerations. So the report goes into some of the details in terms of comments received and whatnot. I can confirm that there were no comments in objection. I can also add that there was one member of the public that did call to ask a couple of questions about the application, looking to confirm that a apartment building was not being proposed here. And I can say that the R1 zone category is a low density zone category and would not permit an apartment building. So that is not the direction that's going here. In fact, the applicants have advised that other than some interior alterations, there is no intent at this time to change the exterior facade, additions, none of that sort of thing is being proposed at this time. The report goes into the policy analysis and the details of this. I can say that the property is zoned downtown core and that that designation allows for residential, standalone residential. In summary, staff are recommending approval of this rezoning, and there is a draft zoning bylaw on tonight's agenda for council's consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions that may come up. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Before we begin, are there any comments in support of the proposed rezoning? Seeing none, are there any comments in opposition to the proposed rezoning? Seeing none, are there any comments and questions from members of council? Councillor Pelkman.
Yes, thank you. In the summary highlights, there are three restrictions, I guess I'll call them. And the one is about the parking to the rear of the building. But it doesn't say that it restricts parking at the front of the building. Is that correct? They would be allowed to park at the front of the building?
Tim?
Yes. So they would be permitted to park in the front of the building, which is currently occurring as well.
Yeah, I just didn't want to see a situation where suddenly they're restricted from something that house or that building has had for many years in place. So.
Any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, we'll bring a motion to close the public meeting. The public meeting to consider an application for the rezoning for the property located at 40 Caradoc Street North be hereby closed. Someone to bring the motion. Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. We'll now go to the resolution. There are three. I'll do all three together. That the subject report for ZBA 14-2023 be received for information, and further that ZBA 14-2023 application to rezone from general commercial C1 zone to site-specific low-density residential R1-20 zone for the property municipally known as 40 Caradoc Street North be approved, and further that bylaw 69-23 be referred to the consideration of bylaws section of the agenda for approval. Someone to bring a motion. Councillor Pelkman, second by Deputy Mayor McGuire. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Now move to public meeting number 2, which is a public meeting to consider an application for rezoning for the property located at 8028 Walker's Drive. I have a motion that the public meeting to consider an application for rezoning for the property located at 8028 Walker's Drive be hereby open. Someone to bring the motion. Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councillor Pelkman. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Mr. Williams, you're on again.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. So this is a application on the northwest northeast corner of Walker's Drive and Saxton Road. It is a rezoning application, as mentioned. It's related to a consent application for surplus farm dwelling. That consent application that was heard on September 7th of this year, one of the conditions of that severance was that a rezoning application be put forward, and that is what's occurring tonight. So it would be a rezoning to rezone the farmlands to A3 from A1. This would restrict for future dwellings to be located on that portion of the property, and for the area, the surplus farm dwelling, that it restricted from things like additional livestock going forward. So the retained parcel is almost 100 acres, and the severed piece, which would receive an A2 with a special policy or site-specific policy 36, just recognizes that permitted uses that I've discussed, and doesn't require any additional development standard changes. Sometimes we've seen that in the past. Over the last year, you've seen accessory buildings and such. That isn't the case in this situation. So the report goes into details on policy and whatnot. The staff comments, there were none in objection of the application. There was a recommendation from the director of planning that and building that the surplus farm dwelling lot receive that permitted use restriction, and that's what you will see in the zoning bylaw that's before you tonight on tonight's agenda. So staff are recommending approval of the proposed rezoning as it's meeting the official plan policies as well as represents good planning. So I'll leave it at that, but happy to answer any questions that may come up. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Williams. Are there any comments from the public in support of the proposed rezoning? Are there any comments in opposition of the proposed rezoning? Seeing none, are there any comments and questions from members of council? Okay. Seeing none, we have a motion at the public meeting to consider an application for rezoning for the property located at 8028 Walker's Drive be hereby closed. Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councillor Brennan. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. There are 3 recommendations. I'll read them all together. Recommendation that the subject report for ZBA 15-2023 be received for information, and further, that ZBA 15-2023 application to rezone from general agricultural A1 zone to the agricultural purposes only A3 zone and a site-specific agricultural small holdings A2-36 zone for the property municipally known as 8028 Walker's Drive be approved, and further, that bylaw 68-23 be referred to the consideration of bylaws section of the agenda for approval. Someone to bring the motion? Councillor Hippel, second by Councillor Kennis. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you for that. Approval of minutes from the last council meeting of September 18th, 2023. The meeting minutes of September 18th, 2023 be approved as written. Motion to carry. Councillor Kennis, seconder. Councillor Palkman. Are there any questions or errors or omissions on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Now move to notices of motion. 7.1 from Councillor Derbyshire. There's a motion that council directs staff to consult with CN Rail to determine if it is feasible to stop train whistling at rail crossings from Victoria Street to Amiens Road. You bring the motion, Councillor Derbyshire. Seconder, Councillor Wilsey, any questions? Councillor Peltman.
Yes, thank you. I'm not opposed to the motion, but one question that I would have is that I know the last time this came before council, the answer came back that as we have a partial ban for train whistles now, that if any of the crossings were to be found as unsatisfactory to today's standards to meet even the partial ban, that we may lose that partial ban. And so I would want first to make sure that we're not putting ourselves at risk of losing the partial ban before we do any kind of formal application to look at the crossings in the whistle ban.
Any other comments? Councillor Pammer.
Just wondering if at this stage was any costs that would be incurred, what they might be.
I'll ask Councillor Derbyshire. I think just with the report, I don't think will there be a cost to preparing the report. CEO McKibben.
Through the chair to council, I don't believe there would be an associated cost at this point to have the conversation with CN, not that I'm aware of.
Other Councillor Brennan, then Councillor Wilsey.
When we went through this, or attempted to go through this process several times before, I think there might have been a cost. And I think Road Superintendent, I think Jake Strauss might have an answer for us on this, because he and I had discussed this previously about what some of the costs might be. So maybe through the chair to Jake Strauss. Hi, Director Strauss. With regard to the application, were there going to be some costs involved in the study if it did take place? Thank you.
Director Strauss.
Thank you through the chair to Councillor Brennan. So so if the council does opt to move forward with the motion, I would ask that council commit fees to this, because CN is going to require an assessment of each crossing that we're asking. That assessment, I don't have an exact price, but just in talking with CN, it can range anywhere from 15,000, to 20,000. That'll require a legal survey, a design, and then it'll be consultation going back with CN. I will just mention that they are federally regulated, so there's not really an easy win through that. If things are just okay, it has to be perfect. It has to meet all of their requirements. There's not just a kind of a one-off. So there is cost associated with consulting, but if just to contact CN, there is no fee to just initiate a conversation.
Okay. Yeah, Councillor Wilsey, my apologies.
My question was more along the same vein, just to make sure that the motion was clear that we're having our staff consult with CN Rail. When I read the attachment, there is a process there where it says that there would be a cost if we were to engage third-party engineers. And I realized Director Strauss looked into this for us in the spring and said around the same numbers he said tonight for cost, but I believe those costs are to engage third-party engineers. I'm unsure if it's actually a cost for CN and the municipality to do the study yourself, because the attachment included does say that the third-party engineers are optional and not necessarily required.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Derbyshire, your motion, you care to comment?
Yeah, I was just hoping that we could engage and kind of ask the question as to what is required. You know, do we have crosses? Do we have lights? Do we have wigwams? Do we have all the things that are required? You know, and of course I would probably ask our insurance, whether someone get a hold of them and find out what that could possibly change the cost if we are to eliminate the whistle. I'm not saying just jump into this blindly. I was just asking for a conversation to be had about this, about our concerns, and kind of nail down something a little more rock solid than, well, it's 20,000 a crossing, and we just don't do it. So they won't speak to me anymore. They need someone else. So,
Councillor Peltman.
So just to be clear, the intent of the motion is really you're looking for a report from staff to find out everything we need to do for the formal process. Would that be a fair question to ask? Or is the motion saying that we should be engaging in the formal process?
I guess,
Councilor Derbyshire.
yeah, I guess what I'm asking for is to see if it's feasible. So if they say, nope, you gotta give us 20,000 and then we'll talk, then that's what they would come back with and say, it's 20 grand, they're not talking with us. If they come back and say, look, you need to have this in place, all this done, and we probably are gonna require a third party and this and that, then we have that information, and if that's required, what's that worth? Like, but if they just hardline you and say, give us 30,000 and we'll start the process, then that's what we get back. You know, otherwise, it's up to you guys.
Any other, Councilor Canis?
CN has two lines that run through the municipality, so the line that runs through Mount Bridges and the one that runs through Strathroy. So are we, should we be asking about both if we do it, or are we just talking about the one that runs through Strathroy?
Yep. Fair question. Councilor Derbyshire, did you want to comment?
I had only said from Victoria to Amiens on this line. I didn't bring the other one into effect. To be honest with you, I haven't heard complaints from there, but I probably will now that it's been addressed. But this was the one that, you know, I was asked about, and it wasn't just the town of Strathroy. There's numerous houses that are located right beside this all the way out to Amiens.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor, the council directs staff to consult with CN Rail to determine if it is feasible to stop train whistling at rail crossings from Victoria Street to Amiens Road. All in favor? Opposed, if any?
Sorry, I just want to clarify again, I'm not opposed to the motion of us, I'm just opposed to the way it's somewhat written, because it's basically saying we're going to engage in a process. I would like first for us to have some investigational work to see what the process is and come back to council before we enter into a formal process.
I think the motion says for council to direct staff with CN Rail to determine if it's feasible to stop the train whistlings at the crossing from Victoria to Amiens. Yeah, with a report prepared to council at the end of it, but no, I didn't. If it does say to start that application, that might just be the title of it, but the motion is to engage.
The motion passed as it was, so it's.
Yeah, motion passed. We are, sorry, Councilor Pogman.
Okay.
Point of order, I want to bring that up. We already had the questions.
I believe we're on the same wavelength.
Yeah. Thank you. So there's another motion from Mayor Grantham, which at this time I'm going to withdraw. Now move to drainage matters. The first one is section 76(1), varying of the original schedules of assessment for the Campbell Drain 1976, the Lamont Drain 1928, the Campbell Drain 2001, and Campbell Drain 1974. You have a motion to receive the report first. Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councilor Brennan. All in favor? Carried. Before we get to the question and Director Strauss, there are three motions. We'll go through those first. Council make an application to the tribunal under section 76(1) of the Drainage Act, excuse me, for permission to procure a report of an engineer to provide an updated schedule of assessment for future maintenance on the Campbell Drain Extension Report dated April 4th, 1977. And further, that the Township of Adelaide Metcalfe be notified of this application. And further, the council include in the assessment schedules of the Lamont Drain 1928, the report dated June 28, 1928, before my time, the Campbell Drain 2001 report dated May 31, 2001, and the Campbell Drain Extension 1974, the report dated October 8th, 1974, be updated as part of the engineer's report. Motion to accept all three. Councillor Pelkman, second by Councillor Hippel. Are there any questions? Councillor Pelkman.
No questions, but just a comment. I actually found this very interesting to look at the assessment values, and I bet you there are a lot of farmers that would like to have those dollar values back.
Just as an aside, Councillor Pelkman, and digress, I came across from my grandfather from 1972 where his assessment was $38, so I'm quite sure people would like to have them. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Well, now move to the Lipset Drain, 1973, section 76-1. Varying of an original schedule of assessment, EPW-2023-54. Motion to receive the report first. Someone to make the motion, Councillor Brennan, second by Deputy Mayor McGuire. All in favor? Carried. Motion that council appoint Spreet Associates Limited to prepare a new drainage report under section 76-1 of the Drainage Act to address the watershed and land use changes. Someone to bring the motion, Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councillor Kennis. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Now move to the communications. We have council received the communications for information first. We have tonight, I believe it is, just double check, 5 in front of us. Someone to make a motion to receive the communication first. Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Pammer. Any questions regarding specific correspondence? Councillor Hippel.
Yes, I would like to pull out 9.5, if that's possible.
Okay. Any other? Councillor Wilsey.
I'd like to pull out 9.1 and 9.2.
Okay, fair enough. I think we'll go with Councillor Hippel first. You want to address 9.5.
Yes, thank you through yourself. I have, this letter is not, they are not alone in this. I have been getting emails, phone calls. I've been in that area. I don't know how many times I drive down that road daily, 2, 3, 4 times a day. Sometimes when I have the energy, I run down that road. But I can safely tell you that it's getting worse and worse since they first started building. And now that we're expanding as a municipality, we're overrun with speeding vehicles, not just vehicles altogether. And we've got buses coming there and kids are crossing the road, and it's just a really dangerous spot. And I know, like the couple were saying, you know, there are definitely things that are going on. It's not an easy solution, but they have been there for a very long time, and they were told that this was coming, and it's not here yet. So I guess I'm asking what's going on, what's the status of this? We need to keep, safety is key here. So I guess I'd like to hear from someone on what the progression is on this.
Yeah. Director Strauss, I see you went live. You care to comment?
Yes, through you to Councillor Hippel. So there's kind of 2 moving parts here. We have a Strathroy-Crossings drain that is going to be, it's proposed to run down Saxton Road. So that will be a storm outlet for the road surface and developers along the whole Strathroy-Caradoc, Strathroy-Crossings drain that would have an outlet over to the Trout Creek west of Adelaide Road. That is going, hopefully going for construction in 2024. You will see that item on the capital budget for next year. Also, encompassed with that will be the Saxton Road. We have to do a little bit of redesign, but also the construction. And as part of that construction, we're going to be putting in a sidewalk down one side, all the way to Collins Way.
Thank you. Follow-up?
No, thank you very much.
Okay. Councillor Wilsey, just a little bit of clarification. You wanted to speak to 9.1 and 9.2. Earlier today, the CAO advised me that Ron Medill has actually asked for a delegation to the next council meeting to address it. He wants to present it himself. Up to you whether or not you want to speak to it, but I did want to point out that Mr. Medill will be attending council himself at the next council meeting.
With that, I'm fine to be away for 9.2 to next meeting. Ron called me earlier today and asked me if I could speak in his absence.
Oh, did he? Okay.
If he's doing it next week, we'll let him speak next week. Probably put it
2 weeks from now. Don't get ahead of yourself yet.
Next meeting.
Yeah. You want to speak to 9.1?
Yeah, so on 9.1, I'm sure everyone's read it. We, as council, received this as an email earlier. But just looking at the council decision with Parkhouse Drive and Troops, there is want to see if we can get an answer back or some response back from the Roads and Engineering Department on these different things, on if we need an environmental assessment to do the lands, and just how long this process of this design is going to take. If what I read in the letter is accurate, it sounds like once we complete this design, we're still going to be years away, which is going to be an urban boundary adjustment, different traffic, and maybe this design that we're doing really isn't necessary. In addition to that, I've heard comments from different residents about some other things that are a lot simpler to do at that intersection, as in changing it to a four-way stop, as he mentioned in his letter. I've also heard and discussed with residents about the possibility of making Troops Road, where it comes up to Parkhouse at that blind corner, similar to what we did in Delaware West, where we just dead-ended that road, and then it's now a T intersection instead of a four-way crossing. So just to hear back from staff on why we didn't do any of those, and if this letter is accurate and we're doing a design but we can't implement it after these EAs and all these other things, are we actually needing to go through with this design, or is it something that we should wait on?
Director Strauss, did you want to speak to that? Yes, CEO McKibben, yes.
Sorry, if I may, through the chair, would it be, would council be agreeable to a staff report back on this so that staff can take the time and go through these comments and provide a fulsome response to council?
I'd be agreeable to that as long as all those points are covered, as long as I could get a seconder.
Question or seconder, Deputy Mayor?
I will second it and then I'll make a comment if I may.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a seconder. We'll open it for comments and questions. Yeah. You
I
still
just
have
wanted to
the floor.
make sure I still have.
You have it, it's yours.
You're a gentleman. Yeah, I just wanted to say, these type of reports always get my attention when I see that they're drafted by somebody with professional credentials, as Mr. Johnson would be bound by those professional credentials. So I think it is important, as the CAO has noted, that a report from council note some of the comments, particularly page 2, where he's talking about that it is not optional, it's mandatory through the Environmental Assessment Act, and he quotes the section in the Act that a full EA is required for us to do what it is that we were heading down the path to do. So I think it's very good to get that report back.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Hippel.
Through yourself, I was going to agree with Councillor Wilsey, because when we, in Delaware West, when we closed that road down, I know that was talked about quite a bit, and I was very new on council, but I can safely tell you that the residents down that area over the years that's been there, it's safer, it's the traffic is much better, and personally that's kind of the area or the road that I would go, because it seems like a simple solution. Obviously I'm not an engineer, so I'm not even attempting, but I'm just saying that I like the fact that this is something that we're looking into, because I think different avenues is important.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Wilsey, then we'll call the vote.
This one is just a quick one. It's a question to staff. With asking the report, when would be a respectable amount of time for us to expect this back? And I realized on my last motion I made last meeting, I didn't put a time on it when to expect the report back. Does staff need 2 meetings for this, or when should we expect to hear back on this?
CEO McKibben?
Through the chair to Councillor Wilsey, yes, it would be appreciated because the deadline for reports are within days of this meeting. So to have a fulsome report back to council, it would be appreciated if staff could bring it back at the November 1st, or the first meeting in November. Would that be agreeable to council?
I'm agreeable to that as long as my seconder will agree to that amendment.
Yeah, sure. We have the motion on the floor. Any further questions? All in favor?
You have 2 motions on the floor right now. We need to take care of the first motion and then do the second motion.
The first motion.
So you've got the first motion
Yes.
to receive.
Right.
You've got one motion down.
Right.
And then we'll have the second motion as well.
Okay. We'll see if I get this right. If I don't, you jump in. So we have a motion to receive the reports. All in favor of receiving the reports? Opposed, if any? Thank you. And the second report from second motion for Councillor Wilsey is that staff will prepare a report based on the letter received regarding Parkhouse Drive and Troops Road to be prepared in 2 weeks for the first meeting in November.
Just to clarify, it also included the options of a 4-way stop or closing off Trips Road where it comes up to Parkhouse. So it was the letter plus those 2 options.
Okay.
For the first meeting in November.
Okay. Got the motion, seconder, Deputy Mayor McGuire. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. Reports from departments. We'll start with Financial Services and Mr. Dakin. We have a recommendation that report FIN 2023 be received for information. Motion to receive. Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councillor Kennis. All in favor of receiving the report? Thank you. That the application for 1822-039 Ontario Limited be approved for processing for the total refund of $83,528.44. Motion to approve. Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councillor Kennis. Questions? Councillor Wilsey.
When we get our 3rd quarter budget report, which I believe should be coming next meeting, will we be getting an update on the revenues? Because as we're reading these back, we're losing the revenues. Will that be reflected in the next quarterly statement that we see as council?
Director Dakin.
Through the chair to Councillor Wilsey, so I'm assuming that you're inquiring about property taxes. Is that what the revenue you're looking for?
Yes, because to the chair, yes, it's the property taxes because we're refunding property taxes. So
Yep.
that would affect our revenue.
Yeah. Director Dakin.
Through the chair to Councillor Wilsey, so this obviously, because it'll be processed in Q4, will not be part of that update, but you'll have the taxes that we've collected to date will be part of that 3rd quarter.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Pelkman.
So I'm just curious if, this property's taken a really long time to be renovated. Do we have any power as if we're refunding property taxes to say, like, this needs to step up and this building needs to be reoccupied?
Director Dakin.
Through the chair to Councillor Pelkman, through the finance department, I really don't have the ability to speed up renovations. That might be something through the building department, but I know that the work has already begun to renovate. But I'm not sure what sort of lack of a better term, hammer we have to help things move along.
That was a fair question, Councillor Pelkman, so I'm gonna ask Director Huff if you could add to that in any way.
Thank you. Through the chair to council. So from a building permit perspective, certainly we expedite building permits as fast as we can and we assist with inspections, but in terms of actually providing a carrot to make them go faster, that is difficult. We are aware that they have the permits in, renovations have been done. If they're not complete, they're very close to being complete. And then actual occupancy of the building, again, that is in the hands of the owner. Even though they may have an occupancy permit, we can't tell them when the building has to be occupied by. We can just indicate that it's safe for occupancy.
Okay, thank you. And you had one, Deputy Mayor McGuire.
I just wanted to note that in the report, it seems clear we are refunding for the years 2021, 2022, 2023, which therefore stands that if there's a further request coming forward for 2024, that would end up back in front of this committee, which we can decide upon at that point in time. And I think the other point to this would be that for rental property that is not occupied or only partially occupied, there are now taxation implications through the government. So that may also spurn this development to get going, particularly if they're close and they have, some that they can rent out there. I know that there are tax implications from the government for not having your buildings occupied.
Any other? Councillor Kennis.
I'm just wondering, in the report, it says that MPAC has reduced the assessment from 2.4 to 240,000. So my question is, do we actually have any, are we arguing about something we can't do anything about? So.
Yep, Director Dakin.
Through the chair to Councillor Kennis. So when we receive these applications, we forward them to MPAC to get an assessed value to correct whatever remedy the person's looking for, so we can find out what that is, and then we apply our policy to it, which is basically looking at the reduction and then just reducing the rate. So obviously the idea would be then MPAC has to go back and reassess, but the standard practice is to send them to MPAC, so MPAC can then decide the value, the reduction that needs to take place.
Any other questions? Councillor Kennis.
Just to clarify then, but MPAC has then reduced the assessment, so then we have to follow the rules that have been put before us.
Director Dakin.
Sorry, through the chair to Councillor Kennis. So under the Municipal Act, under section 357, the property owner has the ability to petition council for this reduction. It is my understanding that it is council's decision whether they want to give that reduction. And that's why they come to council, so that you, as council, decide if you want to offer the reduction.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, we have a seconded motion that the application for 1822-039 Ontario Limited be approved for processing for the total refund of $83,528.44. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. The next is application FIN 2023-39. Make a motion that the report FIN 2023-39 be received for information. Motion to receive, Councillor Pelkman, second by, going once, Councillor Hippel. All in favor receiving? Opposed, if any? Carried. Motion that the application for 28 Concord Street be approved for processing for refund of $646.92. Motion to approve. Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Derbyshire. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Building and planning deal with the assumption of Northwood subdivision, Strathroy, BBP 2023-18. Motion to receive the report. Councillor Pammer, second by Councillor Hippel. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Two motions that council assume all streets and blocks within Plan 33M-722 and further that bylaw 71-23 be referred to the consideration of bylaws section of the agenda for approval. Motion to carry. Motion by Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councillor Hippel. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Wilsey.
When we assume the subdivision, assuming just like I know when we talk about South Grove, it's not assumed yet, or Woods Edge, there's some parks that are planned in some of those. Are there any parks or anything that we could look at for the 2024 budget that are in this subdivision that we're assuming? No, I think that's going to go to Department of Rec. I don't know if there's any other departments that may have something in the newly assumed subdivision budget.
I think I knew part of that answer, so I'm going to defer to Director Lilborn to answer that question. Director Lilborn.
Through the chair to Councilor Wilsey, there are no parklands in that subdivision. There is a trail access that needs to be modified to current standards. So that was presented before council at our last meeting.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we have a second motion that council assume all streets and blocks within Plan 33M-722 and further the bylaw 71-23 be referred to the consideration of bylaws section of the agenda for approval. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Now move to the CAO report, hiring report, environmental services coordinator of a recommendation report HR-2023-14 hiring report, environmental services coordinator be received for information. Motion to receive the report. Councillor Brennan, second by Councillor Kennis. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Reports from boards and committees. We have a recommendation that the reports from boards and committees be received for information. Motion to receive. Councillor Kennis, second by Councillor Hippel. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns with any of the reports from the boards? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Deputy Mayor McGuire, do you have anything to report from the County Council highlights of September 12th?
I will just take a moment. So we did have a incredible delegation, Mr. Brian Hill, who is the president of the Marion Friendship Center, and I'm sorry, I know I mispronounced that. If anybody knows the proper pronunciation, please help me out.
Is it Namarind?
Is it Namarind?
Namarind.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Mr. Hill is incredible to listen to. It was on the Truth and Reconciliation. I would very much like to meet the gentleman again and continue some of the discussion that he spoke to us on. We also received a report OPA 62 from Middlesex Center, and this was for a clinic, rec center, shopping situation over in Middlesex Center, and what came out of that was a letter from Chippewa of the Thames First Nations bringing forth some new legislation brought down by the provincial government about about the need for us as municipalities in all forms, for upper tier and lower tier, to consult with our First Nations neighbors when we're making a decision, when we're making all decisions. Ultimately, we deferred our report back to staff, and that is being looked at. But it will be quite interesting for us to follow that along to see what the process is going to look like for consultation, what the expectations are from both sides, from the government side, provincial government, from municipal side, from, in this case, Chippewa of the Thames First Nations, and how that all happens. So I'm very interested in watching that process play itself out, and we will surely have to keep an eye on our decision-making at this council to ensure that we are appropriately consulting with our First Nations partners, Chippewa of the Thames. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Okay, we'll move to inquiries or comments, and we start with Councillor Kennis this evening.
Just a question I would like, I guess, us to consider getting some sort of number in our capital projects on overpasses over the rail line. I think all of us get emails on a regular basis suggesting that an overpass be built or an underpass. And almost every week when I'm out on a walk somewhere, someone will say, we need to have an overpass or an underpass. And my recollection from Director Dakin about an overpass at Caradoc on the main crossing would be something like $100 million. And so I'm not looking for us to spend money to hire engineers, but just to get us a ballpark figure as to what an overpass would cost, so that we can say we might be able to do that, but it's going to cost $30 million or $50 million or $100 million or whatever the case might be. I feel for people, and I understand the concern. It's just such a large number, I think, that we're looking at, that I think people should need to see that number, and then from there understand that it's just not a simple project to be done. So I'll leave that for consideration, but just to have some sort of number that we can have available that will tell us what we need to say when we get those questions asked.
Thank you. Councillor Wilsey, any comments, inquiries?
Just a follow-up on my inquiry from last meeting. Through the chair to Director Strauss, just want to see when we could look at getting the report on the wastewater treatment facility that was requested last meeting. Will that be coming at the following meeting, or is it, or do we have a date for that?
The right one? Director Strauss, sorry, that was the bell for me to wake up.
Thank you. Through the chair to Councillor Wilsey, it is going to be on the next agenda.
Thank you. Councillor Derbyshire.
I don't really have a whole lot of inquiries this week for some reason, but I do want to remind people that harvest has started. Our roads are busy. Please watch out for tractors, wagons. Most of us have flashing lights. If not, and again, farmers, if you don't, stay off the road. You know, the other people, slow down. Please, we are doing a quarter of the speed you are. So, you know, let's try to get through a safe harvest for everybody.
Agree with that, Councillor Derbyshire. Councillor Brennan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've had a few inquiries lately about sidewalks in areas where we're doing road work at the moment, and sidewalks that will be, I suppose, reinstalled. The question comes from some senior walkers who are concerned that when the sidewalks are put back in, that they be nice and level, as opposed to maybe being tilted to the grade of the driveways. And I understand this is probably a contentious issue in terms of the design, but they maintain that in the winter, some areas of town are almost unwalkable because the sidewalks have been reinstalled at the grade of the driveway going down to the road. So you're walking along on flat sidewalk, and then suddenly you're on an angle. And with ice, it becomes extremely treacherous, and some people maintain unwalkable. Specifically on Drury Lane, I think they're looking at, you know, what will the sidewalks when they're reinstalled there be like? Will they be level so that a person walking isn't walking kind of on a sideways slant, or will they be level and then sideways slanted when it gets to a driveway and then level again? I guess these questions are ones that are being kicked around a lot by a lot of the pedestrians who use our sidewalks a lot. I'm one of them too. So I guess that's a question for our roads director that he could either answer tonight, or maybe could come back later. But I think there's just a lot of attention being paid by people right now to the sidewalks, and they just want to make sure when they're put in that it's pedestrian friendly, as opposed to just merely convenient for cars going in and out of driveways. Thank you, Your Worship.
Fair comments. Director Strauss.
Thank you, through the chair, to Councillor Brennan. So Drury Lane specifically, that is going to be installed in accordance with the Accessibility Ontarians Disability Act, so AODA. It's a 2 to 4% slope. I'm not sure if you can actually see my pen. I do have my blur vision on, but anyways, the driveway will be on its original slope, or less than, and then the sidewalk will be at a flatter slope. It'll be at that 2 or 4%. And then the driveway will then be graded back to the property line or further, just in accordance with our driveway standards. We can have driveways up to 10%, however, we prefer having 8% at a max. But our goal with Drury Lane is not to have the driveways and sidewalk be the same slope unless they're at 2 or 4%.
Any other? Councillor Brandon.
So just to, when I respond, I can tell people that it will be AODA compliant. Thank you.
That is correct, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Pelkman.
Yes, thank you. My question is in regards to the county council, not necessarily the report, but an issue that we had earlier in the year, that there were to be stoplights approved for the intersection of Head and Metcalf, and I'm just wondering where that stands.
So I can answer that partially, as I reached out to Chris Trainey, and I apologize, I didn't forward this on to you. I did ask him the question, it's on his radar screen, but it won't be until next year, which that answer doesn't make me entirely happy, but that was a response from Chris Trainey. Councillor Hipple.
Thank you. I will not be talking about speeding or garbage or any of that stuff tonight, so you can all be thankful that I'm jumping to a different one tonight. We, as a municipality, we're very unique. We have, when it comes to recreation, we have lots of programs for programming for ages, all ages, but what I'm going to talk to you tonight really quickly about is our arenas. We have 3 arenas in our municipality. We have 2 minor hockey associations, Strathroy Minor Hockey, Mount Bridges Minor Hockey. Between the 2, we have just slightly over 1,000 participants. We have girls hockey, which is blue water hockey, and we have a junior C program. We have a junior B team, junior C team. We have a senior A hockey team. We also have a recreation team that runs on Saturdays. And we have 2, if not 3, figure skating programs that run out of 2, if not all 3 arenas. That's a lot. And so, and they're just starting, everything's just starting up because the ice has been put in. So thank you to everyone that has worked really hard on all of 3 of those arenas, because those pads are ready to go, and the kids are on them daily. And things are being kept up, and they look great, and the parents are coming in and they're happy. They may not always be happy where their kid is playing, but they're happy. And it takes an awful lot of work to be able to get all of that done. So not only is the staff in our municipality working very hard on that, but we have volunteers all through our community, all through our municipality, that are working nonstop to get all of these people to do all of these programs. And I think that's pretty incredible. And the reason I brought that up is because obviously, you know, I'm a hockey mom, and I have been for 28 years. So what I'm saying is that we're so lucky we live in a community that is as unique as ours. And if you ever are wondering what to do on an evening, I would suggest stop in at one of the local arenas. And there's always somebody on the ice, and there's always something really neat going on. And the support that we have for everything that goes on within our municipality on that side, I think is pretty incredible. So that's it for me tonight.
Thank you. With your permission, I'm going to piggyback on your comments more anecdotally, because you were talking about the number of teams. Just anecdotally, I can tell you that on Sunday, I went to my grandson's Mount Bridges hockey team practice in Kamoka, and I've heard that Glencoe is opening their arena, and they're expediting the opening to make room for Mount Bridges minor hockey to practice at their arena. So just an editorial comment from me. Councillor Pam.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. Yesterday was National Truth and Reconciliation Day, and I know that municipal staff had the day off. I just think that perhaps as a municipality, we could do a little more besides giving staff the day off to recognize that or commemorate that date. Whether it be some sort of ceremony, invite our local First Nations neighbors. But we do have an event coordinator, so I don't think it would be that hard to pull off some sort of commemoration or do something, to mark the day. If we're going to observe it as a holiday, then I think that it warrants at least some sort of recognition as a municipality.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor McGuire.
First off, I just want to support Councillor Pammer on her comments wholeheartedly, because they feed right back into that incredible talk we had from Mr. Hill. The issue I wanted to bring up this evening, Your Worship, was out on Drury Lane. As that road started to get redeveloped and take shape, there was some concerns raised by the citizens. I know Councillor Derbyshire spent quite a bit of time down there just hearing concerns and trying to help as best he could. And I was on site at one point in time after being called there by quite a group of citizens. And I appreciate that Director Strauss and his staff were up there listening, and I know they have a plan in place, and I'm assuming everything is going well. But at the appropriate time, I think it is important for us to receive a report as to what occurred that led to the changes. I'll leave it there. What occurred and how did that happen? But that would be at the appropriate time, so I'm not going to put a time frame for return of that comment, because I think they're under development and probably need to keep their focus on that given the time of year trying to get pavement down.
Thank you. Well, I'll go last. And Councillor Pammer, I purposely didn't comment on your comments about National Truth and Reconciliation Day and our efforts as a municipality, and I was part of the presentation at County Council, and I can tell you, I agree with you wholeheartedly that we need to move forward and not comment on what we did this year, but I can certainly tell you that as a staff and council, we need to do way more next year. And you know, we are fortunate to have 3 First Nations as our neighbors. For some of us, they're one side road away, so that will be my challenge, not just to staff, but to council. That next year, we need to have a more fulsome recognition of the day, so I will leave that with CAO McKibben, but again, agree with wholeheartedly your comments that we need to do way more when it comes. So, that being said, motion the council move into closed session at 7:15 p.m. for the purpose of discussing the following. One item in accordance with council's procedure bylaw to approve in-camera meeting minutes. One item pursuant to section 239 2F of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, legal advice. Motion to move into closed session. Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councillor Brennan. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried.
ready to go.
Okay. Welcome back. We have a motion that closed session adjourned at 7:30 and open session resumed. Someone to bring the motion, Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councilor Hippel. All in favor? Carried. Council met in closed session to deal with two items. One item in accordance with Council's procedure bylaw to approve the in-camera meeting minutes. One item pursuant to section 239 2F of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, legal advice. To bylaws, consideration of bylaws, bylaw number 5823, Deputy Clerk.
Bylaw 5823 being a bylaw to establish a code of conduct for the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc and for members of local boards. So the recommendation is that Council approves the revised member code of conduct and the Council staff relations policy, and further that bylaw number 5328 receive first, second, and third and final reading.
Motion to approve. Councilor Brennan, second by Councilor Canis. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried.
Bylaw number 6823 pertains to public meeting number 2 this evening, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 4803, being the comprehensive zoning bylaw for the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc. This is regarding the property municipally known as 8028 Walker's Drive. We are looking for first, second, and third and final reading.
Motion to receive. Councilor Hippel, seconded by Councilor Pammer. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried.
Bylaw number 6923 pertains to public meeting number 1 from earlier this evening, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 4308, being the comprehensive zoning bylaw of the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc, regarding the property municipally known as 40 Caradoc Street North. We are looking for first, second, and third and final reading.
Motion to carry. Councilor Canis, seconded by Councilor Palkman. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried.
Bylaw number 7023 is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc for this evening, being October the 3rd, 2023. We're looking for first, second, and third and final reading.
Motion to carry. Councilor Pammer, seconded by Councilor Canis. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried.
Bylaw number 7123 pertains to the Building and Planning Report, item 10.2.1, heard earlier this evening. This is the bylaw to dedicate, accept, and assume streets and services within the plan of subdivision known as Plan 33M722, Camp Crescent, Oscar Davis Court, Blocks 61, 63 to 65 inclusive in the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc, in accordance with an agreement pertaining, registered as instrument number ER 1067144. We are looking for first, second, and third and final reading.
Motion to carry. Councilor Pelkman, second by Councilor Hippel. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried.
Bylaw number 7223 this evening is a bylaw to amend bylaw number 8122, being the bylaw to appoint members and council representatives to certain authorities, boards, and committees. We require first, second, and third and final reading this evening.
Motion to carry. Councilor Brennan, second by Councilor Canis. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried.
Those are the bylaws.
Thank you, Brianna. Our next meeting is on Monday, October 16th at 6. Oh, I apologize.
No, I had a question about the schedule of meetings.
Yes, go ahead.
When are we taking this show on the road?
Good point. I've received a couple of calls. That one of them was from the high school, so I think it's something we need to have a discussion with. So if you allow me, I'll have that discussion with the CAO and report back. Is that fair?
The high school.
Yeah, oddly enough, the high school has asked too that we take a council meeting to the high school. But I'll,
Yeah, but we're gonna do the others.
yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah. Sorry, Councilor Canis.
Yeah, just a question on that. I guess people have gotten fairly used to it being broadcast on Facebook or YouTube. Just wondering if that is going to be then possible in some of those other locations and whether that's an issue or not. So.
I would defer that, but my comment from the little wee bit I know about the municipal act, the duty is to have open meetings. So I think if you go on the road, it's still an open meeting, but you may not satisfy all the people, but there are people who are asking for us. Take the show on the road, as Councilor Derbyshire called it. Yes. Oh, we didn't have that. We go back to the tape and double check. I apologize, I missed that the direction given in closed session be approved. Motion to approve. Deputy Mayor McGuire, second by Councilor Pelkman. All in favor? Carried. I stand corrected. Adjournment. Recommendation that the October 3rd, 2023 regular council meeting adjourn at 7:39. Motion to adjourn. Councilor Hippel, second by Councilor Wilsey. All in favor? Opposed of any? Carried.